Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Juta Pada Kamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Varijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakanvitamscha Shri Chaitanya Prasadena Tadrupasya Vinirnayam Balopi Kurute Shastram Dristva Vrajavilasini Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Eva Cha Patitanam Pavanibhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namah Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Shri Ganesha Sharada Gurubhyo Namah Hari Om. Welcome, dear devotees, and very happy Kartik Purnima to you. This is at least according to the North Indian calendar, the final day of Kartik Mas in the new moon-based calendar, the Amanta. I forget which it is. The South Indian calendar, Kartik has a couple more weeks to go until the next new moon. But this full moon in the Purnamenta calendar, which is the calendar that we generally follow. I say we, those on the server, those, part of the Ramakrishna Sampradaya. It's a North Indian, centered tradition originally, so they follow the North Indian calendar. Kartik comes to an end today, and there are many, many different things that are celebrated on this day. It's known as Dev Deepavali, especially in Benares, where the ghats on the river Ganga are lit up with Diwali lamps. There are in the Sikh tradition, this is celebrated as, I believe, the appearance day of Guru Nanak Dev Ji. And of course, in South India, there is a this is and in other places, this is the celebration of Kartikeya, like Kartika is the star on which this month under which this month falls. The other son of Shiva, Ganesha's brother, Kartikeya. We just had a Murugan puja, veil puja here at the Adya Vaishnavi Mandir in my home. And of course, in the Vaishnav tradition, this is celebrated as one of the days that Krishna performed his Rasa Lila, his Rasa dance. And so this is a very auspicious night, and I thought it appropriate to, I was going to go on with our Bhagavatam discussion, but we're in a little bit of a weird place, and the Bhagavatam doesn't really fit the mood of the occasion. So we're going to do more of our extended meditation on Krishna's sweetness in our examination of Sripada Vallabhacharya's Madhurastakam. And we're at the end of a verse, at the end of the third verse, where we've explored several different qualities of Lord Krishna, and now we come to a very, very sweet one. Sakyam Madhuram, Vallabhacharya says, his friendship is sweet. And then we get the refrain, Madhurati pater akilam madhuram, for the emperor of all sweetness, everything is sweet. This is from our Chinmaya mission commentary that we are taking from. The Lord is ever there for you, right in your heart. In the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna says, "Whosoever recognizes me as a friend and well-wisher of all beings attains peace." In short, the Lord is ever present, and what is more, he is the most loving, most compassionate, and most competent. There is no question of him deserting you. We we experience friendship in this world, and friendships are sometimes up and down. But God is the friend who will never leave us, who never has to, um, set boundaries, let's say. God is always available for us, always um, has an unlimited capacity of love and empathy and wisdom for us. That and God tries in any way that they can to show us the right path, always directing the movements of the living entity. And when we begin to tune into the presence of God within our hearts, sometimes we take God and we put him in a temple, in a temple in our homes, a little cabinet, a little looking at my shelf, with all my deities on it. And we have a tendency, especially in our traditions, they have altars and things like that. We go see God in the temple, we go see, God in our shrine, and then we go off and, go off on our nonsense all day long. I know certainly this is the case for myself. I know I'm on the call with some very saintly people, but I'm just speaking for myself here. And that's the symptom of a kanishta adhikari, according to, in the broader discussion about nectar of instruction, is that this is the attitude of someone who sees God in the temple, God in the image, but not God in one's own heart, God in the heart of other living beings. Their spirituality cannot travel with them. And cultivating friendship with God is to be comfortable with this dialogue, with this constant opening of the heart. A lot of people I know, like when I first started like praying regularly, I found it very difficult what to say. But just having the conversation that you would have with a friend is really, really helpful and kind of opens the door in a lot of ways. We have conversations all the time in our lives. We open up to people, we vent to people. I remember, something that the spiritual director at my temple here in Michigan said, that he had a friend who was going through a really hard time. And this friend was, speaking to him and laying out the details of the situation and giving all these perspectives on the situation and how he feels so terrible and how, what should I do? I'm really stuck as to how do I even think about all these problems I have in my life. And my friend, Deva Madhava, our spiritual director, told this person, go to your altar, sit in your altar room, and just as frank and open that you are with me, that you were with me just now, be that frank with your deity. Sit in front of Krishna, sit in front of Ma, sit in front of your Lord, and pour out your heart to them. And this solves all the person's not all the person's problems maybe, but at least this person knew what to do. This person, the confusion was gone and clarity was gained. And so yes, we have this, this theoretical idea that we can have a relationship with God, but to go from having like a theoretical, like concept of what that may mean, to have it actually become a lived reality is something that takes a lot of development, a lot of ups and downs with God and life and everything. Right. So it's something that the Lord is always eager for and leading us into further depths of. We hear about the 9 processes of bhakti, starting with shravanam, kirtanam, smaranam, these different practices um, that we enfold that make up the substance of our bhakti, hearing, chanting, remembering, things like padasevana, serving other people, like we've discussed in this series, things like archana, serving the deity in the temple. But all of a sudden we come to this one that's quite different, sakhya, which means developing a friendship with God, where your relationship with God ceases to become a formality. It is actually a living, tangible relationship. And the thing is, with all of these processes of bhakti, these nine processes of bhakti so emphasized by our teachers, they are each complete in themselves. If you do one, chanting, hearing, worshiping the deity, completely and fully and sincerely, that is enough to give you realization of bhakti. But in some sense, they are steps. That one coming to Atma Nivedanam, complete and total surrender unto Bhagavan. And so this is what is being cultivated by our chanting, our hearing, our puja, our everything. And so if we can enter into our sadhana in that space, that I am cultivating a friendship with God, then it becomes much less of a chore. Then the sweetness is kind of activated. It goes from I have to do my sadhana to I get to do my sadhana to I want to do my sadhana, right? So friendship and this kind of intimacy with God in a general way is it's very much a big, a fundamental nourishment we get on the spiritual path. What is Krishna's friendship like? What is it like to be Krishna's friend? I think, the best example of this is a story that many of you know. It's quite a famous story from the 10th canto of the Bhagavatam about a cowherd boy named Sudama. We heard about Sudama also in the Tulsi class. It is unclear whether this is meant to be the same Sudama. Um, I don't know if it seems to be. It does not seem to be, because this Sudama was a companion of Lord Krishna's at the Gurukul of Sandipani Muni when Krishna was in school. And he was, in general, he was supposed Jaima. Anytime you say sister is a blessing. Thank you for gracing us with your association. Um, so Sudama is a Brahmana, but he is poor. He's very poor, from a very poor Brahmana family. Whereas, he is going, in the same school as Krishna, this prince, like, and Balaram, these prince brothers, but they are best friends and, completely best friends. And as happens with school, when graduation happens, everyone moves away and they kind of go on to their lives, whatever colleges they're going to, whatever, when they're moving back home or doing trade school or traveling or whatever they're doing. Krishna goes off to be a king. Like, not a king, but like a prince, a viceroy. He's not the king, but he's basically the king because everyone can't resist him and everyone just listens to him and does whatever he says. And Sudama is living in a hut with his wife. And his wife says, look, we are, that we barely have any income coming in. There was a crop failure, like all of these reasons. We are so impoverished. Please, you were friends with Lord Krishna. Please go and beg some money from him. He's fabulously wealthy. I'm sure he would at least give you something. Sudama says, oh, I don't know. He kind of detests that idea, like having to. He thinks of his friend who has treated him with such great love, and how he have had so many memories of. He kind of balks at this idea. I can't go to him for money. I can't make it seem like I only like him for his money, or if I'm trying to, get a favor out of him. But his wife says, this is necessary. You have a family to support. You need some. We are in need of assistance. And so the Brahmana says, oh well, I don't even have anything to bring. Um, I can't bring him any gift. You're supposed to bring if you go to visit a king, if you go to visit a guest in ancient times and still in modern day in some places, you're expected to bring a gift. In the Muslim world, in the Hindu world, in the Eastern world in general, this is a practice that is done. And all they have really to give is like a handful of poha. of chipped rice. You may see poha at the Indian store, the desi grocery store, this kind of flattened rice, a byproduct of like the rice husking process. And it is, we've seen this in the chipped rice festival of Raghunath Das Goswami. It's poor man's food. It's like the poorest of poor man's food. It is delicious in a with some nice spices and peanuts and yogurt. But it is in general considered a kind of low class type of food. And so he's carrying this handful of poha under his arm, under his armpit, like essentially. And he gets to the palace and Lord Krishna is eating, and he's eating this sumptuous feast with so many kinds of dishes and sauces and breads and curries and rices. And all of a sudden, he hears that Sudama is at the door, and he leaps up from his table. And he goes to greet him automatically. He sits him down on a fine, um, a fine bed, and he has Rukmini Devi, his queen, serve him as Krishna himself bathes his feet as they catch up on old times. And Sudama is so, ashamed. He's so distraught because he's receiving this treatment from Krishna, and all he has is this handful of chipped rice. And Krishna asks him, like, you have something for me. Why don't you give it to me? Oh, no, 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 my lord, I cannot give it to you. It's nothing. It's really nothing that you could receive. And Lord Krishna, kind of takes it from him. Says, you have this little parcel. And Rukmini actually tries to stop him. He says, no, what are you doing? Don't eat that. But Krishna scarfs it down, like he relishes it way more than the platters of luxurious food that he was served. And it gets to the point where Sudama walks out and he realizes, oh my gosh, forgot to ask. I forgot to ask for anything. And he wanders home, but satisfied in his heart because he got to Krishna bathed my feet. That's in the back of his mind. I forgot to ask. But he says, Krishna bathed my feet. Krishna embraced me. Krishna took my humble offering of my heart. Krishna truly reciprocated with my love. And I'm finished. I can die happy now, Sudama says. And he looks, and there is a glittering palace there at his home, whereas he's blessed with wealth and abundance. And what does he say? What does he think? This is from Prabhupada's Krishna book. Sudama says, my beautiful dark friend Krishna is far more liberal than the cloud, which can fill the great ocean with water. Without disturbing the cultivator with rain during the day, the cloud brings liberal rain at night just to satisfy him. And yet, when the cultivator wakes up in the morning, he thinks that it has not rained enough. Similarly, the Lord fills the desire of everyone according to his position, yet one who is not in Krishna consciousness considers all the gifts of the Lord to be less than his desire. On the other hand, when the Lord receives a little thing in love and affection from his devotee, he considers it a great and valuable gift. I am a vivid example of this. I simply offer him a morsel of chipped rice, and in exchange he has given me opulences greater than those of the King of Heaven. What the devotee actually offers the Lord is not needed by the Lord, for he is self-sufficient. If the devotee offers something to the Lord, it acts for his own interest, because whatever a devotee offers the Lord comes back in a quantity of millions times greater than what was offered. One does not become a loser by giving to the Lord. One becomes a gainer by millions of times. The Brahmana, feeling great obligation to Krishna, thought, I pray to have the friendship of Lord Krishna and engage in his service and to surrender fully unto him in love and affection, life after life. So I don't want this to be like a prosperity gospel message, right? Krishna wants to make you rich, right? Because that's certainly not the case. But but if we are in genuine need, then the Lord provides. And sometimes we can close our eyes to what we are actually grateful for, or what we actually have to be grateful for, especially if we have fallen on hard times. But spirituality, not everyone may find a spirituality practical. I think of this passage, like if anyone has um disparage your pursuit of spirituality. I love this phrase that one does not become a loser by giving to the Lord. One becomes a gainer by millions of times. All of your effort, all of your puja, all of your stuff. It's not that God requires this of you. Requires your incense, requires your flowers, requires whatever you have. God wants you over everything, over any material offering. And so he's willing to give, he's willing to bestow blessings. But what he really wants is you. And he bestowed blessings on Sudama so extravagantly because he knew that Sudama loved him intimately in the core of his heart. And so while Krishna may not give us a palace like he does for Sudama, Krishna gives us community. Krishna gives us the opulences of having a healthy household, a love for one's family. Even, and this doesn't mean that nothing's going to go wrong, but it is auspiciousness that can withstand anything that could possibly go wrong. This relationship, this friendship that we have with Krishna. Sudama could have cared less if he had riches when he got home. Sudama, that's not important for him. We learned from the text that he still lived very simply, and even though he and his family were provided for, simply did his bhajan and did his sadhana because he had tasted what real happiness is. And Krishna wants to give us the real thing, not the fake happiness of the material world. Krishna wants us to give actual love, genuine connection, genuine um, fulfillment. This is what he wants to give. What a good friend he is. Bhagavad Gita says, Manmana bhavamad bhakto mad yajnam namaskuru mam evasyasi satyam te pratigyane priyosimi. Always think of me, become my devotee, worship me and offer your homage unto me. Mad yajnamam namaskuru. Perform yajna, sacrifice, and namaskars, prayers. Thus you will come to me without fail. I promise you this because you are my dear friend. Priyosimi. Prabhupada says one should always act in such a way that all his daily activities are in connection with Krishna. And the Lord's promise is that anyone who is in such pure Krishna consciousness will certainly return to the abode with Krishna, where he will be engaged in association of Krishna face to face. This most confidential part of knowledge is spoken to Arjuna because he's the dear friend of Krishna. Everyone who follows the path of Arjuna can become a dear friend of Krishna and obtain the same perfection as Arjuna. So I don't want it to make it seem like Krishna is not already our friend. Krishna wants to be our friend. Krishna is already our beloved. The gopis say this to Krishna, that he is the true husband of all these living entities. But the question is whether or not we've fully woken up to it. And our relationship with Krishna, it's not something that's predetermined. I don't subscribe to this idea that Krishna gives us, that Krishna kind of zaps us and has identities or we just have to let Krishna control us like a robot and be whatever he wants to be. The path of bhakti is not about self-annihilation. It is about the true fulfillment of the self, finding its place in the mandala of devotees of Krishna in this Vrajmandala. And so one practices devotion according to the mood one is pursuing with Krishna. And this whole practice of our sadhana, the nurturing of this bhava, of this mood, maybe you relate to God as a parent and you worship the Divine Mother, or you worship or you're a Christian and they have this parental mood. They or if you are more of a Madhurya Bhav practitioner and you think of God as your lover, and you are worshiping and serving Srimati Radhika, imploring her and listening to her with love and her reading from the scriptures about how one can properly cultivate that kind of that kind of deep service to Krishna. This relationship is the goal. All these practices in the Bhagavad Gita, the Bhagavad Gita talks about karma yoga, it talks about japa, it talks about seeing God in everything, it talks about the jnana and renunciation, all of these different types of spiritual practices that you can do. But where is it heading? Where is it going? This is the conclusion. The secret of the Bhagavad Gita is not that God is everywhere. All the scriptures say that God is everywhere. People say like, oh, the heart of the Gita is this self-revelation, where Krishna says, I am the taste and water. And then, yes, that's a magnificent passage. But where is it all heading? What is the secret of the text? It's in this final chapter, this 18th chapter. And what is the next one? Is Sarva Dharman Parityaja. Don't worry about karma. Don't worry about um, this kind of rigidly religious approach that's about cleaning oneself up per God, or like I need to that centers about following rules and regulations. Yes, the rules and regulations are there, and we need to follow them while we are doing our sadhana. But at the same time, that is in service of love, in service of this friendship. The secret of the Bhagavad Gita is that you can become God's friend, or you can, or shall we say, the shall we say that you can participate in friendship with God. Dasima is asking, Krishna is our friend, our very own, but can we put our trust in him? That is what he That is what he can ask. If we trust, then he can love us back and we can love him more. Offering trust, we get more trust. Offering bhakti, we get more bhakti. Offering bliss, we get more bliss. Krishna is real. Let us relate with him. Amen, sister. That is such a this kind of ever increasing reciprocal affection is really the stuff of the practice of bhakti. It's really the heart of it. And when we get there, when we get this friendship with Krishna comes to its ultimate head in the service of Krishna in Vraj. This is from a new book by Swami Tripurari, one of Prabhupada's disciples. A Swami I really like very much. He's an excellent writer and an excellent speaker. And he's writing about sakhya rasa, because sakhya rasa, this idea of being Krishna's friend, is not written about a lot. Yes, there's lots written about dasya bhav, the literature around Hanuman, examples of serving God. There is much literature around vatsalya bhav, especially in this Pushtimarg tradition that Vallabhacharya is founding. Of course, Madhurya bhav, many traditions are centered around this idea. But Sakya Bhav, doesn't have as much scholarly glossing on a scholarly interpretation. And so Maharaj goes back into the Gaudiya sources and finds where this bhav is there and is elucidated and is fleshed out in these Gaudiya texts. And so this is what he writes from his new book called Circle of Friends. Among Krishna's friends, the Priya Narmasakas are far and away his most intimate companions. This is so because not only do these bosom buddies know him in terms of his cowherd sensibilities, they also know his heart in terms of its romantic stirrings, which are extremely strong, and which so define his personality that at times they cause him to lose interest in cowherding altogether. These friends know his heart so well that they can read it through his body language and reply to it perfectly through their own body language, through poetic words laden with hidden meaning, speaking privately to him alone while in public. What then is the precise nature of the rati they personify, from which they derive their ability not only to tend to Krishna's romantic heart in ways that no one else can in the hour of his greatest necessity, but also serve as instruments that bring about solutions to his ongoing romantic crises? Whatever the composition of that rati is, we Rati means like affection, which we shall explore ahead. One thing we know for sure, these Narmasakas are well aware that Krishna's heart runs through Radha's, and thus it is through her heart that they have skillfully entered his, and in doing so conquered both Radha and Krishna in the sacred realm of rasa. So Radharani in Vraj Leela is the linchpin. She is the center around which all of the other rasas move, and so just like Krishna's friends understand his relationship with Radhika, um, so Radhika understands the cowherd boys and gives them the Shakti to serve Krishna in that way. I think it's beautiful how the affection of Braj kind of flows so freely in between each other. It's a fascinating, very beautiful dynamic. At the beginning of the next verse, we have Geetam Madhuram. His song is sweet. And our commentator Swami Tejamayana interprets this in a fairly literal way. A song that it not and kind of I'm exploring the dual meaning of this designation. That his song can mean songs about Krishna. It can refer to kirtan. It can refer to bhajans, but it can also refer to the Gita, the Bhagavad Gita, the text that we know, the text that we love. So referring to, these are words from Swami Tejamayana. A song that delights you has only entertainment value, but if it enlightens you too and fills your heart with great love, then it is Madhuram. Songs sung by the Lord, on the Lord, and for the Lord are all Madhuram. Kirtanam, this glorification is an essential rung on the ladder of these nine uh, different processes of bhakti. The singing, is something. If not the food, the singing is what gets a lot of people into bhakti and like to make them want to start being around bhakti and practicing bhakti. But sometimes in this world of kirtan concert tours, kirtan albums, and festivals, and um, all of these things. I, I think it's really important that we turn to advice given by my own guru in his book Return to the Source. He says we get excited about chanting, but often do not understand what our inner attitude should be. Swami Sivananda writes, "When you sing Hari's name, feel that the Lord is seated in your heart, that every name of the Lord is filled with divine potencies, that the old vicious samskaras, thought and behavior patterns, and vasanas, mental waves, are burnt by the power of the name, that the mind is filled with purity, that passion and inertia, that's rajas and tamas, are completely destroyed, and that the veil of ignorance is torn down. Meditate on his form and attributes also. Then only will you get maximum benefit from the kirtan. Kirtan is our calling out to God." But our Nam Seva, our Seva towards the holy name, is one wing. It has two wings, shall we say, in our sadhana process. There is japa, our individual practice of chanting the holy name on our beads, on um, our clickers or whatever our mantra practice at home is. And then there's kirtan, which usually involves many people, other people, many people coming together to please the Lord. And so this is how famous Kirtaniya Aindra Das talks about the relationship between these two and the special distinction of singing, like Nam Kirtan. There are two prominent ways that the gopis are absorbed in the services of Radha and Krishna. One is in Nikunja Seva, where one serves Radha and Krishna alone. Nikunjas are like the groves of Vrindavan, where Radha and Krishna meets, and the gopis come and serve them kind of in private. The other one is Rasa Leela, dancing and singing and serving Krishna with all the gopis. Similarly, all the gopis have their individual kunjas for individual personal service. We chant the Namajapa in the mood of Namaseva to assist in personal intimate service. Namajapa is thus like facilitating the meeting of Radha and Krishna alone. In Mahamantra is the relationship between Radha and Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. This is Radha and Krishna calling back and forth with each other, calling out to each other. And when we chant japa, we are entering into that reality. We are beholding that reality. We are serving that reality in a very personal way in our heart. And so we are facilitating the meeting of Radha and Krishna whenever we are doing our personal japa. So Namajapa is a more secluded personal affair. Sankirtan, on the other hand, can be performed in the spirit of Krishna's rasa lila. The rasa lila acts as an appetizer to whet Krishna's appetite for more intimate reciprocation with the gopis. In Ujwala Nilamini, however, there is a description that says that the rasa lila generates in Krishna a happiness that far surpasses even the experience of his complete intimate union with Srimati Radharani and the gopis. One may ask, how is it possible for the rasa lila to be the highest when the culmination of all pastimes is Radha and Krishna enjoying alone in the forests of Vrindavan? The answer is Vipralamba. It is the mood of separation. In the Rasa Lila, Krishna, although so close, is so far away as well. He is dancing with the gopis, but not yet in his most intimate association with them. The Rasa Lila is thus like the hors d'oeuvres that are served before the meal. The meal is the real objective, but the hors d'oeuvres can often be more tantalizing, more piquant, and full of rasa than the feast itself. In the same way, the most exuberant expression of Nama Bhajana is not being alone with Krishna in japa, but in the performance of Nam Sankirtan with others. By Nam Kirtan, Krishna also sees that you are serious about sacrificing your egocentricity for the purpose of helping others gain access to the holy name. An attraction thus naturally awakens within the Krishna to the soul who is performing that yajna. It induces him to relish deeper with the devotee, even more intimate, loving reciprocation in the form of Nam Japa. In this way, Nam Sankirtan and Nam Japa are always inter-supportive. I love this inter-supportiveness because that's what we have when we are in a group setting. We have all our own individual experience. We are coming, all of us are coming to class, all of us are coming to the kirtan. We may have had a different day, had a different have different problems we're kind of taking to the feet of the Lord, have different attitude personally towards Krishna. We're all trying to serve Krishna with love, but but in a group kirtan setting, all of those intentions become one. And so bhakti, in its highest expression, is really this communal experience of bhakti that adds to our individual experience. This is the whoop and wharf of personal relations, our intimate one-on-one experiences with people and our experiences with groups of people and crowds and crowds of friendships. So this dynamic he's describing is very fascinating. It's almost a bit too advanced, definitely, probably in its fullest extent, definitely too advanced for my own pay grade. But I think you can get a little bit more of what he's saying and how our japa and our kirtan are interrelated, and it's very important that we integrate both, whether that's just 2 or 200 for a kirtan, if you have access to a temple kirtan. I wish it was easier to do kirtan on Zoom. I would love to do some singing on Zoom. Maybe I'll ask Nish how he does that so effectively. I haven't sung in a while. I need to get back to singing at the beginning. I used to sing at the beginning of each class, sing Jai Radha Madhava. But this is very esoteric, lofty instructions from Aindra Das, who had a very intimate relationship with this with this mode of worship. So this is something that Aindra Das says about going more specifically into Nam Sankirtan. He says, nowhere, however, it is said that Namajapa is the yuga-dharma, the specific spiritual practice for this age. The yuga-dharma is Nam Sankirtan, loud chanting for the benefit of others, and that's what brings Nam Seva at the highest level. The yuga-dharma facilitates the proper result from the performance of all other practices of devotional service. Therefore, without performing Sankirtan, one cannot gain the highest benefit and deepest realization and purpose of hearing the Bhagavatam, chanting Nam Japa, taking first-class sadhu sangha, worshipping the deity, or of residing in a holy dham. In other words, one cannot gain the highest result from engaging in any other practice of devotional service without spending sufficient time in direct performance of Nam Sankirtan. How does one achieve the highest benefit in all devotional practices by Nam Sankirtan? When Krishna sees that someone is helping others by giving them the opportunity to hear the holy name, then Krishna from within and from without lifts the curtain of Yogamaya from that person. He thus allows them to see the actual nature of the deity and to penetrate and realize the deepest imports of the Bhagavats, the path of spontaneous devotion. And by serving Guru and Krishna on the path of raga, or at least by practicing serving them on that path, one's understanding of Bhagavata and one's relish of the deity becomes even more further enhanced. Then all of one's practices enter the raga dimension and help involve one to the plane of raganuga bhava, vrajabhava. That is the real Sankirtan. That is the Sankirtan of Lord Chaitanya and his associates. And the relish of vrajabhava is of course in the course of the relish of vrajabhava in the course of performing Sankirtan yagya. I love in Gaudiya Vaishnavism, the primary practice is song, is singing, even more than it is japa. Yes, it is chanting, but really it's the singing of the holy name. And I think these practices are given higher prominency because they are things that we can do regardless of our circumstances. It's very hard to do puja when you're on your deathbed. It's very hard to chant the Vishnu Sahasranama or to perform a fire yagya when you're on your deathbed in a very distressing circumstance, but you can chant the holy name. This is one thing that is always available to you. It is the whole spiritual package in something that you need only carry in your body. You only need the vibrations in your body to do japa. You only need the vibrations in your bodies to do kirtan. If or some, I hope you have some cartels at least, like to keep the beat. But this kirtan is given to us as the path for this age. This yuga-dharma is singing. It doesn't mean we don't still do other things. Like I said, we still perform fire yagyas, we still perform pujas, we still do silent contemplation and meditation. But this yuga-dharma, this path for this age, is specialized for us, specialized for our own spiritual advancement, so that we can have access to puja, so that we can have access to lila smarana. I think how many of us here, our first introduction to bhakti was hearing a kirtan, hearing Krishna Das, hearing Janavi Harrison, hearing any of the prominent kirtan singers that are trying to spread this holy name, and we felt something. We may have gone, I remember early on in my journey with bhakti, I would go to temples and I would see the rituals. And I loved the rituals. I think, I grew to love the rituals, but at first I really didn't understand them. I was bored, like, by them, and I just wished that there was more kirtan. And so I would always end up back at the Hare Krishna temple, because that made me feel something. It awakened something within me that wasn't there before, that the ringing of a bell alone, like maybe would not have done. Definitely would not have done. And so singing, according to the scriptures, it is a uniquely powerful and uniquely necessary um, mode of element of our bhakti practice. It's getting late, so I think I'm going to end class there. We're going to continue. So next week we are going to have our discussion on the on the Varna in the Bhagavatam. I hope to make that a one-part presentation because we've had a lot of like multi-part presentations as we've had. We will tackle and then the week after that, and this will be very appropriate, coming up on Gita Jayanti, the appearance day of the Bhagavad Gita, which is happening coming up in December. Just because Kartik's over doesn't mean that we still can't celebrate. Marga Shirsha is a very auspicious month. Krishna in the Gita says, of months I am Marga Shirsha. And I'm excited to discuss that. It's a little bit of a shorter class today because it's Kartik Purnima. I'm sure everyone has puja things or going to visit the temple wherever you are. Um, I'm going to be doing some rituals here in a minute. But I'm so glad to be able to get back to offering regular classes again and serving you all is such a joy. Um, Again, if you have any questions, send them to the chat. I hope you enjoyed this presentation. We will be go we'll be I promise we'll be going for longer next time. Not that you're eager for me to yap and yap endlessly. But vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripasindhubhya eva chapatitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. All glorious to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna.